one of the things that this Patrick Bobilin likes to keep bringing into this is, well, his mother. His mother had hardships when it came to healthcare, and we'll bring that into housing and childcare for SUNY students, because his mother struggled with childcare and housing when she was going to school to better herself. That, obviously that shows there's a problem with society, and all of society should pitch in and pay for someone like her to have free or cheap housing and childcare. And to that I say no. Crowdfunding. Set up a GoFundMe, because not everyone in society owes it to you or your mother or whoever who makes certain life choices and ends up being a single mom. Maybe something happens that is no fault of your own, but life happens. Ask family for help. You don't have family, hire a babysitter. You can't afford it, figure it out. That's life. No one owes it to you to do it for you. The government is not here to hold your hand through every little thing in life. It's there to protect you from force and fraud. Okay? Fraud's basically just an indirect form of force. You are not owed basically anything else. The government's not supposed to be redistributing other people's money. And, well, for starters, he also wants to let everyone vote. If you live in the state, legally or illegally, you should get to vote. Apparently, he probably wants everyone to just get mailed a ballot, maybe 3 ballots, right? And everyone just votes. Heaven forbid you be a legal resident of New York State. Okay, this isn't some xenophobic outcry on my part. You need to be legal citizen of New York State. That shouldn't even be a controversial statement to make. If you're not a citizen of New York State, or a recognized citizen of New York State, or even a legal citizen of this country, you should not be voting in state elections. Point blank. That should not even be a controversial thing to say. Let's go on. He wants to have publicly owned utilities. Yep, that includes water, electricity, gas, internet. That's right, internet. As basic human needs. What did we do without internet? It's a good thing that Egyptians and Sumerians handed down to us throughout the ages, the internet, because couldn't imagine a time without it. And yeah, basically wants to take over all these privately owned industries and make them green. You heard me. He wants to make them green. Wants to completely enact the Green New Deal. And he thinks that's going to create jobs, because we're going 100% renewable. And that'll happen because to go 100% renewable, you got to build all the infrastructure, and I'm assuming actually inventing green technology that actually works, since California is currently going through all kinds of rolling blackouts because they went green. The closest to actually achieving the Green New Deal of any other state. Yay, California. Of course, much like New York, everything that happens to California slowly makes its way to its counterpart on the other side of the country, so they can both infect the rest of the country like two cancerous polyps on either side of your digestive tract. Make sure your entire digestive system gets as infected as possible. Now let's just start with this and go. Obviously, I'm going to disagree that any private industry with any private industry being taken over by the government, period. It's insane to me that this guy would even say that the government should take over a private industry or to regulate it so much that it has no meaningful choices to make regarding its own operation. Excuse me. The government does not have a right to control what you do with your own company, or what a board of directors does with the company. And he just says, no, that's not true. Because I've decided these things are utilities and basic human needs, so we're just going to take it over because the government's going to run it way better. Especially water, like what happened in Flint, Michigan. electricity like they do in California, right? Let's take another example of the healthcare industry, probably the single most regulated aspect of the economy. And look what happened, right? Due to federal, state, and local regulations, hospitals were simply incapable of handling this pandemic, they were saying, right? Well, yeah, they don't have enough personal protective equipment. They don't have enough extra staff. They don't have enough extra maintenance. They don't have enough extra personal protective equipment or ventilators. Well, who told them they had to get rid of all this? Well, the government. Because the government didn't want them charging Medicaid and Medicare so much. Cut costs or else. And what happens when the government says, or else? Well, that means they're putting a barrel of the gun to someone's head. Anything the government orders, mandates, regulates, passes into law is through the threat of physical force, through violence. So you're telling hospitals who are supposed to be private, so many of whom are supposed to be private entities, that you will do this or else. We will use violence and impose these restrictions upon you. So they cut costs, and then this COVID-19 happens, and everyone goes, why don't you have all these things you need? Why were you unprepared? And that's the level of incompetence they want to bring, and regulation they want to bring to every other aspect of your life. And Bobilin doesn't want this just for the city. He wants it across the entire state. Oh yeah, and he also wants free MTA. Because heaven forbid you should have to pay for your own transit. Now, there is one thing on his platform that I actually do agree with, and that is repealing sex work laws. Now, he refers to it as reversing walking while tranny laws. I'm not surprised at all that he would couch something like this in the social justice-y jargon because he can't help himself. He has to make it somehow controversial. Someone has to have victimhood status. He can't simply just say, hey, a human being has a right to choose. An adult has a right to choose who they have sex with. They should also have a right to choose the circumstances in which they have sex. Whether they trade a couple drinks, whether they trade some rent money, whether they trade services, or straight cash. Right? It should be their choice. Two consenting adults should be able to make this choice themselves. And like everything else, I see no reason why the state should stand in the way. Simply, hey, get the tax revenue from it. You know how many of these people who are out there doing these, who are doing sex work, who would just simply be able to have their iPhone and the little square and just swipe your card. Whoop, don't even need cash. Yoop, yoop. You'd be surprised. Make it legal. You're not stopping anyone from doing it. Obviously, people want to, some people obviously need to pay for sex, and there are people willing to provide such a service. Why stop them? I find it to be disgusting that the government would even be involved with this. Am I promoting people going out and using prostitutes? No. Would I? No. If you want to, should you be able to purchase the time of a lady or a guy? Yes, you should. Should they be able to sell these services? Yes, provided they're consenting adults of sound mind and body. In fact, if everything could be out in the open, there'd probably be, I'm not even kidding you, various institutions that they could actually rent space from all over, all kinds of brothels that they would be able to rent space from, and they would have standards, like, again, industry standards. And one of those standards would probably be, conceivably, that you get regular STD checks, which you currently oftentimes aren't getting. And another industry standard would be, hey, if you're a drug addict, don't show up and rent my property for this. We don't want that kind of trouble. It's that simple. Imagine if you got rid of the prohibition on this and you didn't put the running of such an industry in the hands of criminals. But I digress. So that's the one thing I do agree with him on, in principle, but not on how he's trying to get this done by couching this in transgender issue. He's claiming too many people are just wandering around and getting arrested because they're transgendered, and people assume that they're dressed like prostitutes or something. I consider it complete nonsense. So basically, consider this my public service announcement. I just want you to know what this guy's about. Okay, it's just, to me, horrifying that he can come out and say, I'm a democratic socialist. These are the things I think. Hold his head up high, feel proud about it, violate other people's rights, allegedly, and no one's running him out of town. No one's shunning him. No one's telling him, do not come to my local business. I don't want your business here, since you're so anti-business. This guy's anti-life. He doesn't want you to be able to live as a human being and chase your own dreams, enjoy your own values, do what you want with your own property. You know, this guy claims too many people own too much property in New York City. It's not right. We should do something about that. It's insanity to tell you what you can and cannot do with your own property, even just to try to rent it. Heaven forbid you get as much as you can for the space you own. And then, not even that, just to blame the state of what's going on, just a terrible state that New York City is in, not let alone the entire state, and blaming on COVID-19, not on the people running the state, who refuse to just open up the economy and allow people to live and work as they see fit. Now, if you like what I have to say, leave a comment. Actually, if you don't even, leave a comment. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps. And have a good night.